All right, so today we're going to try something a little bit different.
Okay.
You know how we always talk about like the big names in philosophy and
Right.
and their theories and their ideas and everything?
Yeah.
What if we tried to sort of put ourselves like in the mindset of a philosopher
Interesting.
from like way back in the day, you know?
Oh, I see, like thinking through their problems.
Yeah, and seeing how they would have grappled with some of these big concepts and questions.
That's actually a great idea because, we often focus on the end results, like the finished theories.
Right.
But there's a whole process of thinking and wrestling with these
They
ideas
say
that we often miss.
Totally. And we kind of miss out on how like messy and exciting that process can be.
Exactly.
So for today's deep dive, we're gonna meet Isaac Albalag.
Isaac Albalag.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's from the 13th century.
Yeah.
Probably either from Catalonia or Provence.
Okay.
And he's really interesting because he's like right in the middle of this whole Jewish Averroist movement.
Jewish Averroist movement.
Yeah. And this wasn't just about like people reading Aristotle, you know?
Right.
It was about seeing Aristotle through the lens of Averroes, who is this amazing Islamic commentator on Aristotle.
I see.
And like Averroes' interpretations were considered the absolute cutting edge of both philosophy and science at that time.
That's fascinating.
That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, so it's like a whole movement, a whole school of thought
Yeah.
around Averroes' understanding of Aristotle.
Exactly. And you have like all these big names involved in this, you know, like Ibn Caspi,
Oh, yeah.
Shem Tov, Ibn Falakera, Moses Narboni, Isaac Polkar, Gersonides, Elijah Del Medigo, like all these people.
Wow, it's a lot of names.
Yeah, but they're all like part of this vibrant intellectual scene that's like grappling with how to integrate Aristotle as understood by Averroes into their own Jewish intellectual tradition.
That's a huge undertaking.
It is. And it's not just a simple like, oh, we accept everything Aristotle said. You know?
It's more nuanced. It's like they're figuring out how these ideas fit or sometimes maybe don't fit
I see.
with their existing religious beliefs and framework.
That's where the real challenge lies, I think.
Totally.
It's that kind of intellectual wrestling match.
Yeah, and Albalag is like right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at how he approached some of these really core philosophical questions.
Okay.
But we're going to see him doing it like through the lens of Aristotle and Averroes.
Oh, so it's like a double lens.
It's like a double lens, yeah.
Ah.
And what's really fascinating to me is how he deals with this relationship between philosophical reasoning and religious belief.
That's a timeless one.
It's like this tension that thinkers have been wrestling with forever.
Yeah.
And Albalag gives us this really unique historical perspective on it.
And so where do we begin with Albalag?
Okay, so the main source we have for this deep dive is his only surviving treatise.
Oh, just one.
Yeah, as far as we know, it's called Sefer Tikkun Handayot.
Which means the emendation of the opinions.
Emendation of the opinions. That's interesting.
It is, right? And it's basically Albalag's commentary on the first two sections of Al-Ghazali's Maqaid al-Falasifa, the opinions of the philosophers.
Okay, so he's commenting on another commentary.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Al-Ghazali was kind of summarizing a bunch of different philosophical views there.
I see.
And Albalag is like jumping in and being like, okay, here's where I agree. Here's where I disagree. Here's what I think is the right interpretation.
So it's like a conversation across centuries.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the funny thing is that the third section on natural philosophy was actually finished later by Isaac Polkar.
Oh, so it was like a collaborative project.
Yeah.
In a way.
So just going back to that title for a second, the emendation of the opinions.
Yeah.
It already tells us that Albalag wasn't just passively accepting what he was reading.
Right. He had his own opinions.
Totally. And our sources tell us that he had two main goals in writing this book.
Okay, what were they?
So first it was corrective.
Corrective.
Yeah, he saw all these deviations from what he considered true Aristotelianism.
Okay.
Especially in people like Avicenna, who came before him.
Right.
And he was like, no, this isn't how Aristotle should be interpreted.
So it was like setting the record straight.
Exactly. Like back to the basics, folks. This is the real deal.
Back to Aristotle.
Yeah, and the second goal was pedagogical.
Pedagogical, okay.
Yeah, he wanted to provide like a structured introduction to philosophy.
I see.
Like for people who were just starting to learn.
So kind of like a philosophical textbook.
Yeah, but like a really high-level philosophical textbook.
Of course.
You know, and Al-Ghazali's Maqaid actually provided the perfect structure for this.
How so?
Because it was already organized by topic.
Oh, right.
So Albalag could go section by section and explain the concepts.
Yeah.
But also point out where he thought Al-Ghazali or other philosophers had gone wrong.
Oh, so he's using Al-Ghazali's structure to present his own corrected vision of Aristotelianism.
Yeah. Exactly. It's pretty clever, actually.
It is, and it's interesting how Al-Ghazali's work, which itself was a summary of different philosophical views, becomes this springboard for Albalag's own philosophical project.
Yeah, it's like this really cool intellectual dialogue happening across time,
Totally.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the specifics.
Okay.
Starting with logic.
Logic, the foundation.
Yeah, the first part of Tikkun deals with logic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly a pretty faithful presentation of Al-Ghazali's summary.
So not a lot of original Albalag there?
Not so much in that section, no. But
what?
There is this one really intriguing point.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's about the fourth figure of syllogism.
The fourth figure of syllogism, now that sounds a bit obscure.
It is a little bit,
yeah.
But it's actually really interesting because most medieval logicians, like even the big names like Averroes and Gersonides, they basically dismissed the fourth figure as like unnatural or useless.
So why is Albalag interested in it?
That's the question, right? So, to understand this, we got to go back to the basics of Aristotelian syllogisms for a second.
Okay, back to basics. I'm ready.
So you've got these three figures.
Three figures, right?
Yeah, and they're all about the different ways that the middle term...
The middle term being?
The term that connects the two premises
right.
is arranged.
Okay.
So like in the first figure, the middle term is the subject of one premise and the predicate of the other.
Okay.
In the second figure, it's the subject of both premises.
Mm-hmm.
And in the third figure, it's the predicate of both premises.
Okay, I think I'm following.
Yeah. And then this fourth figure comes along.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what if we arrange the middle term in a different way?
Like, what if it's the predicate of the minor premise and the subject of the major premise?
Exactly. It's like a subtle shift in the logical structure.
Right. And most logicians were like, nah, we don't need that.
Yeah, they thought it was kind of redundant.
So why is it in Tikkun then?
That's the cool part, right?
Yeah.
So our sources aren't totally sure if Albalag himself wrote this part.
Oh.
Or if it was another philosopher named Abner of Burgos.
Okay.
But the fact that it's included in Tikkun without any criticism from Albalag suggests that he at least agreed with it.
Interesting.
And there's even like a quasi-defense of the fourth figure in there.
A defense?
Yeah, like the author saying, hey, this actually has some value. Mm-hmm. And get this, they even kind of criticize Aristotle for not including it.
Whoa, criticizing Aristotle, that's bold.
I know, right?
Oh.
It's like this little moment of rebellion within this whole tradition of like revering Aristotle.
It's like saying, hey, even the master could have missed something.
Yeah, and it shows that Albalag wasn't just blindly following authority.
Right, he's thinking for himself.
Exactly, he's engaging critically with these ideas.
That's what makes him so interesting.
Totally. Okay, so moving on from logic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about epistemology.
Epistemology, how we know what we know.
Exactly. And for Albalag, the ultimate goal for humans was intellectual perfection.
Not like wealth or power.
Nope, none of that worldly stuff.
Interesting.
It's all about achieving the highest level of understanding and wisdom.
Lofty goal.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And he believed that you reach this intellectual perfection through knowledge that gets rid of all doubt.
Like rock solid certainty?
Yeah, they called it yakin.
Yakin, okay.
And this wasn't just like feeling really strongly about something. It was like a state of absolute assurance based on demonstrable proof.
So you have to have a reason for your certainty.
Exactly.
You can't just believe it because you feel it.
Right.
And how do you get to this yakin?
Through demonstration.
Demonstration of it.
Yeah, like logical reasoned arguments built on solid premises.
So it's all about reason and logic.
Yeah, that was the path to true knowledge for him.
Now this raises a really interesting question, doesn't it?
What's that?
If the highest goal is tied to philosophical knowledge gained through reason, what happens to religion?
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Where does faith fit in all of this?
Right, because if reason is king, then what role does revelation play?
Exactly. And our sources point out this tension in Albalag's work between Amuna, which is belief, and Yedia, which is like scientific knowledge.
So belief versus knowledge.
In a way, yeah.
And where does he land on that?
Well, it seems like Albalag kind of carves out a separate sphere for religion and scripture.
Okay.
Almost like it operates with a different kind of knowing.
Like prophetic knowledge.
Exactly. And the relationship between this prophetic knowledge and the philosophical knowledge you get through demonstration, that becomes like a central theme in his work.
So is he saying that religious belief is irrational?
Not necessarily. Well, it's complicated. Yep. See, Albalag seems to have this more traditional view of Emunah.
Traditional how?
Like you just accept scriptural doctrines as true without needing a rational justification beforehand.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting because it contrasts with the more philosophical concept of belief,
Okay.
which uses terms like itikad or tadik. And for philosophers, this kind of belief is a judgment. It comes after some kind of cognitive process or reasoning.
So you could argue for your beliefs.
Exactly like Al-Farabi and Maimonides did.
Right. They tried to show that belief could be based on reason.
Yeah, and even linked to a degree of certainty, or at least probability.
But Albalag is saying, hold on.
Right.
Religious belief might be something else entirely.
At least for the average person.
Right. Not necessarily for philosophers.
That's an important distinction.
Okay, so where do philosophers fit into all of this?
Well, this is where things get even more nuanced.
Lay it on me.
So Albalag was actually pretty skeptical about the ability of anyone other than a prophet to truly grasp the deeper esoteric meanings of the Torah.
Like there's a hidden layer?
Yeah, he believed there were two layers of hidden knowledge in the Torah.
Yep.
One that was specifically prophetic and another that was philosophical.
Oh, so philosophers could engage with that second layer.
Yeah, but how would they access it?
Good question.
Through allegorical interpretation.
Okay, so they'd have to read between the lines.
Exactly. Albalag argued that you could only understand the philosophical truths embedded in Scripture by interpreting it metaphorically, and only in light of what you already know from demonstrative sciences.
So philosophy comes first.
Right. You establish the truth through reason, and then you can look for hints of it in Scripture.
And what about those who aren't philosophers?
Well, for them, the literal meaning of Scripture is enough.
Okay.
That's what guides their belief.
So there's like a hierarchy of understanding.
It seems that way.
With philosophical understanding at the top.
And it's interesting how Albalag frames this.
Oh.
He sees the literal meaning of Scripture as being geared towards those who lack rationality.
Oh, why?
Not for the intellectual elite.
That's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah, but it shows how much he prioritizes reason and philosophy.
Okay, so we've talked about belief.
Yeah.
But what about knowledge itself?
Right. How did Albalag understand the structure of knowledge?
Well, following the Arab Aristotelian tradition,
Okay.
he made a distinction between representation and assent.
So representation being...
The basic grasping of concepts in the mind.
Okay.
And assent being the judgment that those concepts actually correspond to reality.
So you can have a concept in your mind,
Yeah.
but you might not necessarily assent to it being true.
Right, and for Albalag, the way to achieve that certain assent was through demonstrative syllogisms.
Always back to logic.
Yep, logic is key.
Now, what about experience?
Oh yeah, he was big on that too.
So he wasn't just a pure rationalist.
Nope. He followed Averroes in emphasizing the empirical foundations of knowledge.
So it starts with the senses.
Exactly. He believed that our intelligible thoughts come from abstracting sensory images.
From the outside world.
Yeah, like we see a bunch of different trees, and then our mind abstracts the concept of tree from those individual instances.
Oh, I see.
And then we use those abstract concepts to reason and build knowledge.
So it all starts with sensory experience.
For him it did, yeah.
But did he think that humans could understand everything?
Not quite.
Oh.
Our sources say that he acknowledged certain limitations to human understanding.
Especially when it came to...
Metaphysics.
Metaphysics, right? Trying to understand things beyond the physical world.
Yeah, like immaterial beings and those sorts of things.
And why did he think there were limitations?
Well, he actually echoed Maimonides on this.
Okay.
He said that attaining complete knowledge of those metaphysical things was beyond the full capacity of the human intellect.
At least in its current state.
Exactly, because we're embodied beings.
Right, we're stuck with these physical bodies.
And he thought that the material aspect of our existence was like a constant distraction.
Like a drag on our intellectual pursuits.
Totally. It's like our bodies are holding our minds back from reaching their full potential.
That's a fascinating idea.
It's this idea that our physical existence is somehow in tension with our desire for higher understanding.
Yeah, like we're always striving for something beyond the material world.
Okay, so let's move on to another big topic.
Okay.
How Albalag conceived of being and God's existence.
Now we're getting into the really heavy stuff.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting, and we see him acting as this true Aristotelian philosopher. Okay,
so what did he have to say about being and God?
Well, a good chunk of Tikkun is actually devoted to critiquing Avicenna's famous proof for God's existence.
Oh, the Burhan al-Anikin?
Yeah, the demonstration of the truthful.
Right, and what did Albalag think of it?
Who wasn't a fan.
Why not?
He thought it was a major departure from Aristotle's own methods and principles.
Oh, so he's sticking closely to Aristotle here.
Yeah, he's like a purist in a way.
Interesting. Okay, so remind me, what was Avicenna's argument again?
Okay, so Avicenna starts by dividing beings into two categories.
Two categories, okay.
Things that are necessary in themselves.
Right.
Their existence is like built into their essence.
Right, they can't not exist.
Exactly. And then things that are possible in themselves.
Okay.
But whose existence depends on something else.
Like they could exist or not exist.
Right. And then Avicenna argues that this whole chain of possible beings has to end somewhere.
With a being that is necessary in itself.
Exactly. And that necessary being is God.
Okay, that's a very simplified version, but I get the gist.
Yeah, and Albalag has some major problems with this.
Like what?
He had two main criticisms.
Okay, hit me with them.
So the first one was methodological.
Methodological.
Yeah, he thought Avicenna was going to bed it the wrong way.
How so?
Following Averroism.
Oh, here comes Averroism again.
Yeah, Albalag believed that the existence of the prime mover.
Now, not necessarily God yet, right?
Right, just the first cause of motion.
Okay.
Should be established within natural philosophy.
Okay.
Not metaphysics.
Interesting. So he's drawing a line between those two disciplines.
Exactly. And he's basing this on Aristotle's principle.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't try to demonstrate the foundational principles of a specific science within that science itself.
So like each science has its own starting points.
Right. And for Albalag, metaphysics is built on the foundation of natural philosophy.
Which means
that you have to accept the existence of the prime mover from the observations of the physical world.
Okay.
And then metaphysics can take over and explore the nature of that prime mover.
Got it. So that was his first criticism.
Yep. What Avicenna did was like trying to build the roof before the foundation was laid.
I see.
Okay. And the second criticism was more about the concepts that Avicenna used.
Okay.
Albalag argued that this whole division of being into necessary and possible was actually foreign to Aristotle's philosophy.
Oh, so he's saying Avicenna is not being a true Aristotelian.
That's exactly it.
Right.
And he thought that this led to some major errors and inconsistencies.
Like what?
Well, for example, if everything that's not necessary itself involves both necessity and possibility.
As Avicenna argued.
Yeah. Then even the separate intellects.
The separate intellect.
These purely intellectual beings, would have this duality of necessity and possibility.
Oh, I see.
And Albalag is like, no way. For him, pure intellect should be pure actuality.
Without any potentiality.
Right. And possibility implies potentiality.
Which means
that the separate intellects shouldn't have any possibility in them.
Okay, so he's saying that Avicenna's framework messes up the nature of the separate intellects?
Exactly. And he goes on to say that Aristotle's own arguments for an unmoved mover are much more convincing and philosophically sound
because they're based on
observation on the actual movement that we see in the world.
So he's favoring a more empirical approach.
Totally. It's all about starting with the evidence of our senses.
And what about the unmoved mover itself?
Oh, yeah. That raises some big questions, too.
Yes.
Is it just the first cause of motion of the physical universe?
Okay.
Or is it also the God of religious belief?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is, and it's something that was debated a lot among Aristotelian commentators.
Yeah.
Avicenna, for example, saw the deity as ontologically superior to the prime mover, as described by Aristotle.
Oh, interesting.
But Averroes, and this is where Albalag sides with him, he basically identified the prime mover with God.
So the unmoved mover is God.
Exactly. And they emphasized God's absolute unity and simplicity.
And that this God is the ultimate cause of all existence.
Yeah, it's like this really powerful idea that everything ultimately traces back to this one source.
Wow.
So for Albalag, acting as a true Aristotelian meant accepting this identification.
Okay, so he's got this picture of God as the unmoved mover, the first cause.
Yeah.
But what about the relationship between God and the world?
Right, like how involved is God in the world?
Is he actively managing things, or is he just kind of setting it in motion and letting it run?
That's a great question, and Albalag addresses this through a few different ideas.
Okay, lay 'em on me.
First, there's the question of the world's origin.
Okay, did he believe in creation?
He did, but not in the way you might think. See, based on his understanding of Aristotle, Albalag was totally against the idea of temporal origination.
Meaning?
That the universe had a beginning point in time.
So, no Big Bang?
Nope. For him, the universe is eternal.
Eternal?
Yeah, it's always existed. And he considered this a demonstrable philosophical truth.
Wow, that's a pretty radical claim for a religious thinker.
It is.
Right.
But he felt that it was supported by Aristotle's arguments for the eternal motion of the celestial spheres.
Okay, so he's got science on his side.
Yeah, he believed that denying the eternity of the cosmos was like denying sound philosophical reasoning.
But how does he reconcile this with the creation story in the Torah?
That's where he introduces this really interesting concept.
Hit me with it.
It's called eternal origination, or oijishniai.
Eternal origination, okay.
Yeah, and it's basically the idea that while the universe has always existed,
Okay.
it's always being originated and sustained by God.
So it's like a constant creation.
Exactly like an ongoing creative act that never started and never ends.
That's mind-blowing.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It's his way of trying to bridge the gap between an eternal universe and the idea of a divine creator.
So it's always being caused by God.
Yeah, and he explained this through the relationship between a mover and a moved object.
Okay.
So in his view, the whole universe is in constant motion.
Right, the celestial spheres and everything.
Yeah. And this motion ultimately depends on the prime mover, which is God.
Okay.
And because God is eternally producing this motion,
Yeah.
he's also eternally creating the universe.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
It's a lot to take in.
I know. So it's not creation in the sense of a beginning,
Right.
but it's creation as this ongoing process.
Exactly. And this allowed him to differentiate his view from the Epicureans.
You also believed in an eternal universe.
Right. But for them, the universe was self-sufficient.
No need for a creator.
Exactly. And Albalag was like, nope.
My universe still needs God.
Yeah, he was adamant that even though the universe is eternal,
Yeah.
it's still fundamentally dependent on God.
For its very existence.
Totally. Okay, so then the question becomes,
Yeah.
what about God's will?
Right. If the universe is eternally being created, does God even have a will?
That's a good question, and it's one that Al-Ghazali brought up as a criticism of the philosophers.
So what did Al-Ghazali say?
He argued that if the universe just emanates from God, like light from the sun, then God doesn't have any real choice or freedom in creating it.
Like it's just a necessary consequence of God's nature.
Exactly. And Albalag actually agreed that this was a problem.
Oh.
But he had a solution.
What was it?
He proposed a broader understanding of agency,
Okay.
one that includes both involuntary and voluntary causes.
So involuntary causes being like...
The laws of nature.
Okay.
Things happen because they have to.
Right.
But voluntary causes are guided by intention.
Like choices.
Exactly. And Albalag argued that while natural causes are real,
Yeah.
they're ultimately set in motion by voluntary agents.
With God being the ultimate voluntary agent.
Exactly.
So even in an eternal universe, God's will is still the driving force.
Yes, but
Yeah.
he also said that divine agency is not exactly like human will.
How so?
Well, for us humans, our will is based on our needs and desires.
Right.
But God is totally self-sufficient,
God doesn't need anything.
right? So God's will is something different.
More like a pure capacity to act.
Yeah, and Albalag described it as an eternal and immutable capacity to choose the best possible order for the universe.
So God is always choosing the best.
Yeah, and this choice, even though it's eternal and unchanging,
Yeah.
is what creates the fixed natural order that we see.
So God's will is the foundation of the laws of nature.
Exactly. It's what makes the universe stable and intelligible.
Okay, so we've talked about God's will, but what about God's knowledge?
Oh, yeah. That's a big one, too.
How can God know everything that's happening in the world?
Especially if the world is eternal and constantly changing.
Right. It seems like that would require a lot of processing power.
It would, and this is another place where Albalag emphasizes the absolute perfection of God. And he says that divine knowledge is fundamentally different from human knowledge.
Not just in degree, but in kind.
Exactly. And he actually criticizes Avicenna's view that God knows particulars in a universal fashion.
Which was a pretty popular idea at the time.
It was, but Albalag thought it still made God's knowledge too similar to human knowledge.
I see.
So he proposes a more radical view.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says that divine knowledge is neither particular nor universal.
Oh.
It's a temporal need. It's outside of time.
Wow.
It's indivisible, absolutely actual.
Meaning.
It's always fully realized. It's not like human knowledge that has to go from potential to actual.
Right.
And it's based on God's self-intellection.
God knows everything by knowing himself.
Exactly. It's this really profound idea.
It is, but how does that work in practice?
Like, how does God know about the specific events in the world?
If his knowledge isn't particular.
Right. So to explain this, Albalag draws on Averrois's concept of God's essence as the form of all forms. So by knowing himself perfectly, God also knows all the forms that exist in creation.
Because they're all contained within his essence.
Exactly. But he's clear that these forms exist in God in a much simpler and nobler way.
Than they do in the material world.
Right, like God's knowledge of a tree
Yeah.
is not the same as our sensory experience of a tree.
It's more like the pure concept of tree.
Exactly. And it's free from all the limitations and imperfections of the material world.
So God's knowledge is perfect and complete.
Yes, but this raises another tricky issue.
Which is?
Determinism.
Oh, yeah, the classic problem of free will.
Exactly. Because if God knows everything,
including the future.
Yeah. Then does that mean our choices are already predetermined?
That we don't have any real freedom.
Right. And Al-Ghazali was a big critic of this idea.
So how did Albalag respond?
Well, he argued that possible events in the world are brought about by different kinds of causes.
Okay.
There are material causes, efficient causes, volitional causes,
which are
free choices,
right.
and natural causes.
Yes. Which operate according to
the laws of nature.
Okay.
And he said that only the effects of natural causes can be known with certainty beforehand.
Because they're fixed and predictable.
Exactly. But volitional causes are inherently unpredictable.
Because they depend on free will.
Yeah, even if God knows all the possibilities.
He doesn't know what we're going to choose.
Right. And Albalag admits that this might seem to limit God's knowledge.
In a way.
But he insists that God still knows everything.
Just in a different way than we do.
Yeah, it's beyond our comprehension.
So he's trying to preserve both God's omniscience and human freedom.
Exactly. It's a delicate balancing act.
And what about cosmology?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the universe.
How did Albalag envision the structure of the cosmos?